Quick presentation first. My name is Yann Leflour. I'm Deputy CTO at BAM. I've worked on multiple mobile apps in React Native and a few chatbots. And I'm here today, I'm really glad to be here today to talk to you about chatbot in JavaScript. So first things first, I wanted to talk a bit about chatbots because chatbot has become a buzzword in the industry, and I would like to dispel some common misconception about them. So I will begin with what chatbots are not. Well, the first one and the one that I hear most often is that chatbots are artificial intelligence. Well, this couldn't be more wrong, because a chatbot is actually a heavily controlled user flow, meaning that you will have to write in code your entire conversation. So sorry for those of you who wanted to create the new Skynet here. This won't be the case. Second one, it's that it's a must-have solution, is that if you have a new service or a cool service, you need to have your chatbot for this service. Once again, it really depends on the service you provide. For example, for customer support, a chatbot can be a really good idea. And another thing I hear often is about, let's say once a month, we get a new article with the title, apps are dead, long live chatbots. Once again, this couldn't be any more wrong. Please try building the Pinterest app with a chatbot. Might take you a few years to get the same user experience. Now, for what chatbots are. Well, first, it's a new platform to engage with users. Just like native apps when they came out, or PWAs, chatbots are simply a new way to engage with your user base. Second, it's a way to engage more personally with users because you're talking to them directly. And third, well, whether you like it or not, chatbots are still a marketing tool. For example, I've worked on chatbots for banks. They don't actually need a chatbot for their service. Their app is quite good, actually, and provide everything you need. But a chatbot is used as a PR move to talk about the service you're selling. So it is still useful. And last one, I'm sorry, everyone. I know this is the back-end track, but a chatbot is a front end. I mean, you're displaying information directly to your user, and you're having a user flow, which means, and I really recommend it, having a UX on your team if you're developing a chatbot. Now, I've talked about chatbot a bit. I need to talk about chatbot services. The thing we won't be talking about are platforms such as Alexa, Cortana, or Google Assistant. I consider not those chatbot solutions, but chatbots platforms. It's basically like WeChat or Messenger, but you're talking instead of writing. What we'll be talking about is that if you type into Google chatbot, you'll likely come across all the following results. Once again, I won't be talking about all of them, because most of these services are all-in-one solutions. And they're software as a service, meaning that if you need to extend them or have some specific use case in mind, you will need to rely on support and their development backlog. So we chose to stick with JavaScript. Why? Well, for one simple answer, it's code actually. Sticking with JavaScript was our best decision as a team, because there's no limitation based on the services you want to use. And you can deploy your server wherever you want. I talked about banks. If you tell your bank that you will be hosting personal user information on a server you don't have control on, because you're using a specific service, they will simply tell you that you won't be able to do the project. And because it's code, you can implement custom logic and override anything you want within your chatbot. So let's deep dive a bit into chatbot architecture. There are three key parts of a chatbot. The first one, the recognizer, the connector, and finally, the bot builder. If we get a message, let's say from Messenger, a user says, I want to book a restaurant in Verona. The message will go through what is called a connector. Then we will ask for the recognizer to translate the user sentence into actionable input. Then we will go through the bot builder, so your conversation logic. And finally, whenever the bot builder needs to send out a message, it will go through the connector output and to the specific channel that you're using. Let's get to the bot builder, which is the main part of your bot application. Well, a bot builder is here to handle your dialog flow, meaning routing your user in the conversation experience. It also persists the user context, meaning that you can store data on your user, and it is used to remember where your user's at within a conversation. If you want to compare it to something, for those of you who have built servers using model view controller architecture, this is a bit like the controller within such model. Here are some libraries that are available. I only selected JavaScript libraries. I also included JavaScript itself because, well, it's code. You can implement your own library if you want to handle the bot building part. But like you would use probably React, Angular for a web app, or let's say some Express, Koa API for a server, I strongly suggest investing into an already existing framework. And for our own project, we chose a Microsoft Bot Builder because first, it's open source under MIT license with a strong following. It is fully typed and heavily documented, which helped us a lot with the speed, development speed. Also, it handles localization natively. And because it's code, you can unit test it easily. Finally, Microsoft Bot Builder is meant to be extended. You can implement your custom logic, and we will see it through the rest of the presentation. For example, with the connectors. So what are connectors for? First, we will talk about the input connector. The input connectors will listen to a message through a webhook. What you will do, for example, if you're using the Messenger platform, is register an API endpoint, and whenever Messenger will receive a message from the user, it will call your endpoint. Once you get a Messenger message under Messenger format, you want to translate it into a standardized format that can be understood by the bot builder part. This is where you convert it. And for the output, it's actually the opposite. So the bot builder will want to send a message to the user and will pass a bot builder standardized message. You will have to convert it to a platform-specific message and then send it to the platform through an API. Once again, here are some okay. Just a quick second. I'll go through here. Yep, on it. Here are some connector services. And once again, we included JavaScript. Yep. Oh. Yeah, we made the mistake of using Smooch for our applications. I strongly advise, like we did, into going for JavaScript directly and implementing your own connector. Why? Because we chose pure.js because it's quite easy to implement, actually. So to use one with bot builder, you have to implement a connector interface, which means that you have to implement two main methods. The first one is the listener, which will handle incoming messages. So whenever this is an express listener, depending on the server library you use, you can change it. Whenever you receive a message, let's say from Messenger, first you will send a 200 answer to Messenger to prevent it from blocking. Then you will translate your Messenger message to a bot builder message and send it to the event handler so it can go to your bot building conversation tree. The second one is the send method. So in input you will have a couple of messages. You want to map them from the bot builder format to the Messenger format and then pass it through a service to send them to Messenger. Okay, and now for the final part, the recognizer. So what is a recognizer? Well, as I said before, it maps user sentences to actionable input. Quite often it will use machine learning, what we call natural language understanding. And because it's machine learning, it needs to be trained. Usually it's another service which is apart from the bot builder. And the goal is to output intents and entities. Let me give you a quick example here. If you say, I want to book a restaurant in Verona, you want your recognizer to detect the intent restaurant booking, which is the overall meaning of the sentence. And then you will want it to detect some specific variables. Here, in this case, it's Verona. Its type is a city, and the value is Verona. These are some natural language understanding services. All of them are free or have a free tier and are compatible with Microsoft Bot Builder. You might want not to implement your own natural language understanding service. It's machine learning. It's a whole other project. That's why we chose to use Recast AI plus a mapper. So because Recast AI it's a service, online service, software as a service, where you can create your own natural language understanding service. You can plug it. We chose them also because they were available. We met them, we got their contacts, we could call them and get some answers whenever we needed help. And most importantly, it handles multiple languages well. Usually within a natural language understanding service, you will have to create separate projects for different languages. Not with Recast, you don't have to declare twice your intents entities. How it's handled? Well, it's quite like for the connectors, except that you only have one method to implement, and it's the recognize. So just as I said, you get you send the user text to Recast. He will provide you with a result with the intents and entities. You will have to map it to a bot builder standardized format, and then send it through the callback. Now let's deep dive a bit into the bot builder part. So let's say a user says, I want to book a restaurant. Well, the structure of our conversation will be the following. So if you've got the entry point, the user sentence, let's say you passed it through the recognizer, so you've got the intent restaurant booking, what happens next? Well, you will go through the restaurant conversation. The first thing this conversation needs is to get a specific restaurant from the user, and then get a date and a time from the user. How it will work, you will go through a get restaurant dialog, which will call a location prompt to retrieve the user position, then call a restaurant prompt to pass a list of restaurants so the user can choose. Same thing for the get date and time detail, and at the end of the conversation, we will want to send a request to a booking API before ending the conversation. So, for the conversation itself, how is it implemented with Bot Builder? Well, first, it's an array, because Bot Builder uses what it calls waterfall steps, meaning that you will have multiple methods that will be chained together to form a conversation. For the book restaurant conversation, the first thing we need is to actually get the restaurant. So we'll go and call the get restaurant dialog. What we expect from the result is a restaurant ID. We will store it, then call the get date and time dialog, store the result, and once we're done, call our booking API to book a restaurant with an ID, a date, time. You might also want to pass some user information to know who books the restaurant. And then once it's over, you end your conversation. You might ask, what exactly is a conversation? Well, if you want to compare it to something, let's say if you have a form, for example, on Google Form, a conversation will be your entire form. So once you're done, you will go back to the initial state, the default state as a user. Then we will check out the dialog. So for example, the get restaurant dialog. A dialog is a branch within your tree. So let's take once again this example of Google Form. This would be like a page of your form. So you want some specific results from this page before gathering them all at the end. So for the get restaurant dialog, the first thing we'll need to do is trigger the location prompt to get the user position by asking him where he wants to book. Then once we get the result, we use it to ask him at which restaurant by passing the location to the, the restaurant prompt. And finally, once we get the restaurant ID from the restaurant prompt, we'll send it as a result of the dialog. And finally, for the prompt, let's take the restaurant prompt, for example. So a prompt is quite different from a dialog or a conversation in the way that it only handles a single step. But whereas it can only handle a single step, it can also respond to user input. To do that, we need to implement two methods. The first one is the onFormat message. In this case, it's used to display a list of restaurants. How does it work? We retrieve the location from the parameters, fetch a list of restaurants, format a message using this list of restaurants, then call a callback to send out the message. The second one is the unrecognized method. This method is used to handle user input and respond to it. So in this case, we will retrieve the list of entities based on the user response. We'll retrieve the restaurant ID using an entity recognizer. If none was found, it means that the user, as an input, has given something that we cannot handle. So we call back with here a result of 0, meaning 0 confidence. We don't trust this answer as a good answer. What will happen is that the user will be prompted the question again. Now, if we found a restaurant ID, we will give it as a result of the prompt with a 1 confidence. Okay, so now you have created a conversation dialog prompt. How do you set all of this up? Well, the first part is that you have to declare a router. Basically, you have to declare your entire dialog structure. So you have to declare your conversations, your dialogues, and your prompts, so they can be used within conversations and dialogues. The second part, well, you saw that for those who were here, a couple of minutes earlier. It's an express setup. The only thing that's different is that we need to use a body parser to handle response or a message coming from Facebook, for example. And then through an API/messages endpoint, we will use the listener we declared in our connector to listen to those messages. Then you launch the server and you have a chatbot running. Quick warning before you start building your own chatbots. The first one, please type everything. I told you Microsoft Bot Builder is typed in TypeScript, but if you don't type your user sessions, your dialog data, your user data, if you don't type the results of your prompts, your dialogues, things will get messy. This is basically what happened to us, and it led to a couple weeks of refactoring because of it. Also, please unit test. You would unit test an app, you would unit test your server, please unit test your chatbot. With Jest. Of course with Jest. And yes, that includes your natural language understanding service. What happened to us is that because it's machine learning, you keep training it, but sometimes your old answers, what was right, for example, book a restaurant in Verona, because of overtraining would be interpreted as a, let's say, hotel booking, which is wrong. So you want to check that your NLU service remains the same. What we use for our project is basically set up a list of messages to send to request for analysis, and then snapshot all the results with Jest. Yes. And it worked wonderfully. And also, please plan out your conversation flow first. Just like for typing, please write out your entire tree structure, conversation structure before starting out, or it may lead to bad decisions. Once again, couple of weeks of refactoring. And finally, implementing a bot takes time. For example, our projects handle, I think, about 5 or 6 conversations. It's mostly booking, so hotel booking, plane booking, restaurant booking, taxi booking. It took us about 3 months with 3 developers to get it running and be usable in production. Thank you, happy bot building. If you want to check out some more, we have a repository with an example project that you can use. Please also check out Microsoft Bot Builder doc. It's great and will help you a lot. And finally, if you're interested with NLU Services, please check out Recast. Great.